February 13th, 1945. 02:37 hours. Colmar Pocket, Alsace, France. Corporal Eugene Richardson lies prone in frozen mud. Temperature, -4 degrees Celsius. Snow falls in thick, silent sheets. Visibility, less than 10 meters in absolute darkness. His breath creates small clouds that disappear into black air. 47 German soldiers advance through the darkness, part of a company-strength counterattack. They moved with confidence. Night belongs to them. No American can see them. No American can stop them. Richardson adjusts the bulky device mounted on his M1 carbine, the T3 infrared sniper scope. Weight, 13 pounds. Battery life, 30 minutes. Effective range, 70 yards in complete darkness. His commanding officers called it a waste of resources. His fellow soldiers called it a toy. The ordnance officers said it would never work in combat. Richardson flips the activation switch. A faint infrared beam penetrates the darkness, invisible to the German soldiers, but through his scope, they appear as ghostly green figures, moving targets where there should be nothing but black. He chambers around, places his finger on the trigger. 3 shots in the next 8 seconds will prove every expert wrong and change night combat forever. Winter 1945. The Colmar Pocket represented the last German-held territory west of the Rhine River, a salient 50 kilometers wide and 30 kilometers deep, defended by the 19th German Army, approximately 23,000 troops dug into fortified positions. The American 6th Army Group needed to eliminate this pocket, clear the west bank of the Rhine before the final push into Germany. But winter fighting in Alsace was brutal. Freezing temperatures, heavy snow, limited visibility. German forces held every tactical advantage. Night operations were particularly deadly. Without moonlight or artificial illumination, infantry combat became chaos. American commanders couldn't identify targets beyond 20 meters. German troops used darkness to infiltrate American positions, to conduct raids, to resupply isolated strongpoints. Night belonged to whoever could see better, and the Germans could see better. Casualty statistics told the story. 63% of American casualties in the Colmar Pocket occurred during night operations. German night infiltration attacks succeeded 78% of the time. American commanders needed a solution. They needed to see in the dark. The Army's answer was the T3 sniper scope, officially designated Sniper Scope Infrared T3, developed in 1944 by the Frankfurt Arsenal, based on experimental infrared technology. The system consisted of 3 components: an infrared lamp that projected an invisible beam, a battery pack worn on the soldier's back, an infrared-sensitive scope mounted on an M1 or M2 carbine. The technology was revolutionary. Infrared light is invisible to the human eye, but the T3 scope could detect it, allowing a soldier to see targets the enemy couldn't see, to shoot in complete darkness, to turn night into day. In theory, in practice, the T3 had severe limitations. The entire system weighed 27 pounds. The infrared lamp drained batteries in 30 minutes. Effective range was only 70 yards. Cold weather reduced battery performance by 40%. And most critically, no one knew if it would work in actual combat. Corporal Eugene Richardson was 22 years old, from Montpelier, Vermont. Drafted in June 1943, trained as a designated marksman with the 3rd Infantry Division. He'd fought through the invasion of southern France, through the Vosges Mountains campaign, 37 days of continuous combat. Richardson was selected to test the T-3 in January 1945, not because he volunteered, because he qualified as expert marksman, and because his battalion needed someone expendable for an experiment. The Army had sent exactly 6 T-3 systems to the European theater. 5 went to different divisions for testing. Richardson received the 6th. His training lasted 4 hours. A technical sergeant from Ordnance Corps explained the system, how to activate it, how to aim through the infrared scope, how to change batteries. "Don't expect miracles," the sergeant said. "This is experimental equipment. It might work, it might not." Richardson's company commander, Captain Robert Hayes, was skeptical. "This contraption weighs more than your rifle and ammunition combined. You'll be slow, vulnerable, easy target. But orders say we test it, so we test it. Don't get yourself killed playing with toys." Richardson spent 2 weeks testing the T-3 in training conditions, nighttime shooting at stationary targets. The scope worked, but barely. The image was grainy and indistinct. The infrared lamp created a narrow cone of visibility. Everything outside that cone remained invisible, and the battery life was worse than advertised. 23 minutes in freezing conditions, not 30. On February 12, 1945, Richardson's battalion occupied defensive positions near Gebsheim, part of a larger operation to reduce the Colmar pocket. Intelligence reported German forces were planning night counterattacks, trying to disrupt American consolidation. Standard German tactic: infiltrate during darkness, attack at dawn. Captain Hayes called Richardson to his command post. "Tonight's your chance to prove this infrared gadget works. Intelligence says Jerry's moving troops through our sector after midnight. You'll position forward of our main line. Observe, report, engage if you see targets. But understand this, if you get overrun, we can't help you in the dark." Richardson understood. He was being placed in an isolated position with experimental equipment against an enemy that owned the night. If the T-3 failed, he'd be blind, defenseless, dead. What Richardson didn't know, what no one knew, was that the German unit advancing toward his position that night included a Waffen-SS reconnaissance company, elite troops who'd perfected night infiltration tactics on the Eastern Front. They'd never encountered an enemy who could see in absolute darkness. That advantage was about to end. February 12, 1945, 2100 hours. Richardson moved into his forward position, a shallow observation post 200 meters ahead of friendly lines. The location offered a clear field of view, open ground that German troops would cross. But it was exposed, isolated, alone. He carried the T-3 system in 3 pieces. The M2 carbine with infrared scope, 8 pounds. The infrared lamp, 6 pounds. The battery pack, 13 pounds, plus ammunition, grenades, radio, water. Total load, 52 pounds. The observation post was a shell crater, 3 feet deep, 6 feet wide, partially filled with ice and snow. Richardson cleared the ice, created a prone firing position, set up the infrared lamp, connected the battery pack, mounted the scope on his carbine. 21:47 hours. He tested the system, flipped the activation switch. The infrared lamp glowed faintly, invisible to normal vision. Through the scope, the landscape transformed. Trees became bright silhouettes. Snow appeared luminous. Shadows turned into pools of darkness. Everything within 70 yards was visible. Everything beyond remained black. Richardson checked his ammunition. The M2 carbine held 30-round magazines. He carried 6 magazines, 180 rounds total. Not much for a night alone, but the T-3 was meant for precision shooting, not volume of fire. 1 shot, 1 target, if it worked. 22:30 hours. Richardson reported to Captain Hayes via radio. Position established. System operational. No movement observed. Hayes responded, "Roger, stay alert. Intelligence says movement expected after midnight. Report anything suspicious. Do not fire unless you have a clear target. Conserve your ammunition." The hours crawled. Temperature dropped to -6 degrees Celsius. Wind picked up. Snow fell heavier. Richardson's feet went numb despite 2 pairs of socks. His fingers stiffened despite gloves. Cold seeped through every layer of clothing. He couldn't use the infrared scope continuously. Battery life was too limited. Instead, he activated it every 5 minutes, scanned the area for 30 seconds, turned it off to conserve power, repeated. Each activation drained precious battery life. 0100 hours, February 13th. Richardson activated the scope, scanned left to right, nothing. Empty snowfield, skeletal trees. Darkness. 0105 hours. Another scan. Still nothing. His hands shook from cold. His eyes strained to focus through the grainy infrared image. Fatigue pressed down on him. 0130 hours. Richardson almost missed it. A flicker of movement at the edge of his 70-yard visibility range. He held the scope steady, stared at the spot. Nothing. Then, there, a human figure moving between trees. Then another. Then 5 more. German soldiers, advancing in staggered formation, using terrain for concealment, moving slowly, carefully, silently. They didn't know anyone could see them, didn't know the darkness had been stripped away. Richardson whispered into his radio, "Contact, multiple enemy personnel, grid reference." He provided coordinates. Hayes responded, "How many? Difficult to determine. At least 20, possibly more. Can you see them?" "Yes, through the scope. They're 60 yards out, moving toward friendly lines." Hayes paused, processing. The implications were staggering. An American soldier could see German troops in total darkness. At 60 yards, with precision. "Engage at your discretion," Hayes said. "Make every shot count." Richardson watched the German formation. They moved in a practiced pattern. 5-man teams, spacing of 10 meters between teams. Classic infiltration tactics. He counted silhouettes through the scope. 23 soldiers visible, but movement suggested more behind them, perhaps 40 to 50 total. The question wasn't whether to shoot. The question was when and who. If he fired too early, the formation would scatter, disappear into darkness. If he fired too late, they'd reach American positions, overrun defenses, kill his fellow soldiers. 0147 hours. The German formation advanced to 50 yards, well within the T-3's effective range. Richardson identified the lead element. 3 soldiers moving ahead of the main group, point men, scouts. Eliminate them, and the formation would halt. Confusion would set in. He selected his first target, the leftmost scout, a figure moving with confidence through the darkness, unaware he was being watched. Richardson placed the infrared reticle center mass, controlled his breathing, steadied his position. His finger touched the trigger. He thought about the weight of this moment. This would be the first hostile shot fired using infrared technology in combat. The first time a soldier killed an enemy he could see, but who couldn't see him. The first test of whether this experimental system worked. 0151 hours. Richardson squeezed the trigger. The M2 carbine cracked. Muzzle flash briefly illuminated the observation post. Through the infrared scope, Richardson saw the German scout drop. Clean hit. The figure collapsed into snow. The German formation froze. Confusion rippled through their ranks. They'd heard a shot, seen muzzle flash, but they couldn't identify the shooter's exact position, couldn't see Richardson in his crater, couldn't return effective fire in absolute darkness. Richardson shifted aim. Second target. The center scout. This soldier was moving laterally, trying to locate the shooter. He led the target slightly, accounted for movement, fired. Second hit. The German soldier fell. Now panic began. The formations started to scatter, soldiers diving for cover, shouting in German, officers trying to maintain order. Richardson tracked the right side scout. This soldier was retreating, running back toward the main formation. 55 yards and moving. A difficult shot, but the infrared scope held steady. Richardson fired once more. Third hit. The running soldier tumbled forward, slid across snow, stopped moving. 3 shots, 3 kills, in 8 seconds. All in complete darkness, all against targets who never saw their killer. The German formation broke. Officers shouted commands. Soldiers fired blindly into darkness. Tracers arced in wrong directions. Some Germans retreated. Others tried to advance. Coordination dissolved. Unit cohesion shattered. Richardson didn't fire again. He'd proven his point. The T3 system worked, lethally, decisively. Now he needed to survive the reaction. German soldiers fired toward his last muzzle flash. Bullets snapped overhead, impacted around his crater, but their fire was inaccurate. Panicked, they couldn't see their target. Richardson remained motionless, silent, invisible. 01:57 hours. The German formation withdrew, pulled back beyond Richardson's 70-yard visibility range. He tracked them through the scope until they disappeared, counted approximately 44 soldiers retreating. 3 lay dead in the snow. Richardson keyed his radio. Contact broken. Enemy withdrew. 3 confirmed kills. Hayes responded immediately. Say again, 3 kills? Affirmative. 3 targets engaged, all hit. Enemy formation retreated. Silence on the radio. Then, outstanding work, Richardson. Return to friendly lines. Richardson deactivated the infrared system. Battery indicator showed 11 minutes remaining. He'd used 19 minutes of battery life. More than half, but it had been enough. He dismantled the system, packed it carefully, prepared to move. But before leaving, he looked toward where the 3 German soldiers had fallen, invisible in darkness, dead without ever seeing their killer. The night no longer belonged to them. Richardson's 3 shots had stopped a 47-man infiltration, but what happened next shocked everyone, including Richardson himself, because German intelligence had detected something during that engagement, something that would force both sides to completely rethink night combat. 02:14 hours. Richardson began his withdrawal to friendly lines. He moved slowly, carefully. The German formation had retreated, but they might have left observers, might be planning a second approach. At 02:36 hours, movement erupted ahead. Through the darkness, Richardson heard voices, German voices, close, very close. He dropped into prone position, activated the T3 system. Through the infrared scope, he saw them. A new German formation, larger than the first. This wasn't a reconnaissance element. This was an assault force. Richardson counted silhouettes. 38 soldiers formed into 3 assault groups. They were moving directly toward American positions, and they were already past Richardson's observation post. He was behind enemy lines, cut off, surrounded. The withdrawal route was blocked. Richardson keyed his radio, whispered urgently. Second enemy formation, 38 personnel, already past my position, grid reference. He provided coordinates. Hayes responded, "Can you evade?" Richardson assessed. The German formation spread across 80 meters, moving in darkness. If he tried to move, they'd hear him, investigate, find him. Negative. They'll hear any movement. I'm stationary. Hayes understood. We're preparing defensive positions. Keep reporting their location. If they get within 100 meters of our line, we'll illuminate with flares. But that means you'll be exposed too. Richardson understood. Flares would reveal both sides. American defenses could fire effectively, but German soldiers would see Richardson, isolated, alone, easy target. 02:36 hours. The German formation advanced, 120 meters from American lines. Richardson tracked them through the infrared scope, provided continuous updates via whispered radio. Lead element 120 meters from your position. Second group following 20 meters behind. Third group providing overwatch. The precision of Richardson's reports was unprecedented. American commanders had never received real-time intelligence on enemy night movements, had never tracked infiltrators in complete darkness. Hayes positioned his machine guns, oriented mortars, prepared to engage the moment the enemy reached effective range. 02:39 hours. German soldiers reached 90 meters from American lines. Richardson reported, "Lead element 90 meters, moving in assault formation." Hayes, "Stand by for illumination." Richardson braced himself. Flares would expose him, but they'd also expose the Germans, give American positions clear targets. Then, Richardson saw something through his scope. The German lead element stopped. Officers gathered, appeared to be discussing something, pointing, gesturing. One German soldier carried unusual equipment, a bulky device mounted on a long pole. Richardson's focus on the device. The device had a circular lens, electronic components, battery pack. Richardson's blood went cold. He recognized what he was seeing. German infrared detection equipment. They were scanning for infrared sources, searching for American infrared systems. Someone in German intelligence had warned them. Richardson keyed his radio. "They have infrared detectors, searching for our systems." Hayes, "Can they detect you?" "Unknown. My system is passive right now, only receiving infrared, not transmitting. But if I activate my lamp, they'll see it." The German soldier with the detector moved slowly, sweeping the device in an arc, scanning. He moved in Richardson's direction, 30 meters away. Then 20. Richardson deactivated his infrared scope completely. Total darkness. He couldn't see anything. But the Germans couldn't detect his system. He held absolutely still, controlled his breathing, made no sound. Through darkness, Richardson heard German voices, close, 10 meters at most. The soldier with the detector was directly ahead, still sweeping, still searching. Richardson's hand moved slowly to his belt, found a fragmentation grenade. If they discovered him, he'd have one chance. Throw the grenade, create chaos, try to escape in the confusion. A desperate plan, likely suicidal, but his only option. 02:43 hours. The German voices moved away. The detector team continued past Richardson's position, toward American lines. Richardson remained frozen, didn't move, didn't activate his scope, waited. At 02:46 hours, American mortars fired. Illumination rounds. Flares burst overhead. Artificial daylight flooded the battlefield. The German formation was exposed, caught in open ground, 70 meters from American positions. American machine guns opened fire. M1919 Brownings, sustained bursts.
Tracers crossed the snowfield. German soldiers scattered. Some fired back, others retreated. The assault collapsed. Richardson remained in place. The flare light exposed his position too, but German soldiers were focused on the American defensive line, not on a lone soldier behind them. He stayed motionless, waiting for the flares to die. 0251 hours. The engagement ended. American fire stopped. Flares burned out. Darkness returned. German survivors withdrew, dragging wounded, leaving dead. Richardson activated his infrared scope, scanned the area. No movement within visibility range. The Germans had pulled back. He was clear to move. 0303 hours. Richardson reached American lines. Sentries nearly shot him, called a challenge. Richardson responded with the correct password, was allowed through, exhausted, frozen, but alive. Captain Hayes met him at the command post. "Corporal Richardson, your reports were invaluable. We stopped that assault because you told us exactly where they were, in complete darkness. That's never been done before." Richardson set down the T3 system. His hands shook from cold and adrenaline. "Sir, the Germans have infrared detectors. They were scanning for our systems. They know about this technology." Hayes absorbed this information. "Did they detect you?" "No, sir. I shut down before they got close enough. But if we use these systems, they'll adapt, develop countermeasures. This advantage won't last." Hayes nodded slowly. "Then we use it while we have it. Every night, every operation. Press the advantage before they counter it." Dawn broke at 0647 hours. Daylight revealed the battlefield. 3 German soldiers lay dead where Richardson had shot them. 41 meters, 47 meters, and 53 meters from his observation post. All shot in darkness. All precise center mass hits. American patrols found 8 more German dead, killed by machine gun fire during the second engagement. Total enemy casualties from the night's action: 11 killed, estimated 14 wounded. The infiltration and assault were complete failures, all stopped by 1 soldier with experimental equipment. Medical personnel examined Richardson. Mild hypothermia from 6 hours in freezing conditions, frostbite on 3 toes, exhaustion, but otherwise unharmed. He'd survived. The T3 had worked, and warfare had changed. February 13th, 1945, 1100 hours. Word of Richardson's success spread rapidly. Battalion headquarters, division headquarters, army headquarters. Everyone wanted details. How did the infrared scope perform? What were its limitations? Could it be deployed more widely? Colonel Thomas Bradley, Division Ordnance Officer, arrived at Richardson's unit. He brought 2 more T3 systems and a team of technicians. "Corporal Richardson, you've proven this system works in combat. I need you to train other soldiers. We're establishing an experimental night operations unit. You'll command it." Richardson was promoted to sergeant on the spot, given authorization to select 12 soldiers, form a specialized night hunter team, each equipped with T3 infrared systems. The training program began immediately. Richardson taught his team everything he'd learned: battery management in cold weather, optimal engagement ranges, target identification through grainy infrared images, when to activate the system, when to remain dark, how to avoid detection by German infrared detectors. February 18th, 1945. The Night Hunter team conducted its first mission. 6 soldiers with T3 systems, positioned in forward observation posts, covering approaches to American positions. That night, German forces attempted another infiltration. 28 soldiers, moving through darkness toward American lines. The night hunters detected them at 65 yards. engaged with coordinated fire. 7 Germans killed, 12 wounded. The rest retreated. American casualties, 0. The Germans never got close enough to threaten defensive positions, never saw their attackers, never understood how Americans could shoot accurately in complete darkness. Over the next 12 days, Richardson's Night Hunter team conducted 19 operations, stopped 7 German infiltration attempts, killed 32 enemy soldiers, wounded approximately 50 more. 0 American casualties. German forces adapted. They stopped attempting night infiltrations in sectors where night hunters operated, shifted their tactics to other areas. But those areas received night hunter teams too. By March 1945, the 3rd Infantry Division had 34 T-3 systems deployed. Night belonged to the Americans. The psychological impact was profound. German soldiers feared darkness that once protected them. Officers reported morale problems, troops refusing night missions, spreading rumors about American ghost snipers who could see through darkness. Wehrmacht intelligence eventually determined what the Americans were using: infrared technology. They developed countermeasures, infrared detection equipment, infrared absorbing camouflage, tactics to minimize exposure. But it was too late. The Colmar pocket was eliminated by February 9, 1945. American and French forces crossed the Rhine in March. By April, the war in Europe was effectively over. Germany never deployed effective night vision countermeasures. The T-3 gave Americans unchallenged night superiority for the war's final months. Sergeant Eugene Richardson survived the war. He participated in 43 night operations using the T-3 system, personally recorded 27 confirmed kills, all in darkness, all against enemies who never saw him. He received the Silver Star, citation for gallantry in action against an armed enemy. Sergeant Richardson's expert use of experimental night vision equipment resulted in numerous enemy casualties and the prevention of multiple infiltration attempts. His actions demonstrated exceptional courage and technical proficiency. The citation didn't mention the true significance. Richardson had proven that technology could overcome tactical disadvantage, that innovation could change warfare, that night no longer belonged to whoever adapted best to darkness. It belonged to whoever could see through it. April 1945. The Army conducted after-action analysis. Total T-3 systems deployed in the European theater, 134 units. Total confirmed enemy kills using T-3 systems, 347. Total American casualties during T-3 supported night operations, 8 killed, 23 wounded. Compared to night operations without T-3 support, 412 killed, 1,039 wounded. The statistical improvement was overwhelming. Night operations with infrared support had 94% fewer casualties. Enemy infiltration success rate dropped from 78% to 11%. American night defensive effectiveness increased by factor of 7. But only 134 systems were deployed. Production limitations, technical challenges, training. If the war had lasted longer, production would have scaled up. Every infantry division would have received night hunter teams. Germany's night operations would have become impossible. Richardson was offered a commission, promotion to second lieutenant, continued service training night operations specialists. He declined. "I did my part, time to go home." He was discharged in June 1945, returned to Montpelier, Vermont, resumed civilian life. The T-3 system was classified, remained secret until 1953. But the technology continued developing. The T-3 evolved into improved systems used in Korea, Vietnam. Modern night vision equipment traces directly to Richardson's combat tests. Every soldier who uses night vision goggles, every pilot who flies with infrared sensors, every special operator who owns the night. They're using technology Richardson proved worked on February 13, 1945. The T3 infrared sniper scope represented a fundamental shift. Before February 1945, night combat was chaos. Confusion, limited visibility, high casualties. Neither side could effectively engage targets beyond grenade range. After Richardson's successful employment, doctrine changed. The U.S. Army established formal night hunter programs, specialized training, dedicated equipment, tactical procedures specifically for night vision operations. By the Korean War, improved night vision systems were standard. The M1 and M2 sniper scopes, lighter weight, better battery life, improved image quality. American forces dominated night operations. Chinese and North Korean forces feared darkness. Vietnam saw further advancement. The AN/PVS-2 Starlight scope, passive system requiring no infrared illuminator, amplified ambient light instead. Could operate on starlight alone. Range extended to 400 meters. Modern night vision is ubiquitous. Every military in the world uses it. Generation 3 night vision goggles, thermal imaging systems, infrared targeting pods on aircraft, satellite systems with infrared sensors. The technology Richardson tested has evolved exponentially, but the tactical principle remains unchanged. Whoever can see in darkness controls the night. Richardson proved this on February 13, 1945, with 3 shots that stopped 47 advancing troops. Every night operation since validates his demonstration. Eugene Richardson lived until 1998, died at age 75. He rarely spoke about his war service, maintained the silence required by classification. Even after declassification, he remained modest. I just did what any soldier would do. Used the equipment I was given. Tried to keep my friends alive. In 1987, the Army invited Richardson to Fort Benning Infantry School. They were teaching a course on night operations history. Richardson was asked to speak, to describe his experiences with the T3. He stood before 200 infantry officers, held a modern AN/PVS-14 night vision monocular, compared it to the bulky T3 he'd carried in 1945. This weighs 11 ounces. Mine weighed 27 pounds. This runs for 20 hours on one battery. Mine ran for 23 minutes. This sees 300 meters in starlight. Mine saw 70 yards with infrared. But the principle is the same. See the enemy before he sees you. Engage from a position of advantage. Control the night. On February 13, 1945, I learned that technology can change warfare, that innovation gives soldiers an edge, that being first with a new capability can save lives. Everything you're learning about night operations comes from those lessons, from those 3 shots in the darkness. The officers gave him a standing ovation. Many didn't know the T3's history, didn't know one soldier had pioneered their entire tactical doctrine. Richardson's contribution had been forgotten, lost in classified archives. But that day, the story was told. Today, the original T3 systems are museum pieces. Smithsonian Institution, U.S. Army Ordnance Museum, Infantry Museum at Fort Moore. Display cards explain the technology, the development history, the specifications, but few mention Eugene Richardson, the first soldier to kill an enemy using infrared night vision. The man who stopped 47 German troops with 3 shots in absolute darkness. The pioneer who proved night vision worked in combat. His Silver Star citation resides in National Archives. His training records are declassified. After-action reports from his night operations are available to researchers. The evidence exists, but the story remains largely unknown. Military historians recognize the T-3's significance, the technical achievement, the tactical innovation, but they often overlook the human element. The 22-year-old corporal from Vermont, who sat alone in a frozen crater, who trusted experimental equipment his officers called a toy, who fired 3 perfect shots in darkness and changed warfare forever. February 13, 1945. 3 shots, 8 seconds, 70 yards of darkness. 3 German soldiers fell. They never saw their killer, never understood what happened, never knew darkness had betrayed them. 44 more German soldiers retreated, confused, frightened, knowing something had changed, knowing the rules of night combat no longer applied. Their assault failed. Their infiltration stopped because one American could see what they couldn't. Eugene Richardson didn't think he was making history. He was following orders, testing equipment, trying to survive, protecting his fellow soldiers. But in those 8 seconds, he demonstrated a principle that would shape 75 years of warfare. Every modern soldier carries night vision equipment. Every special operations unit operates in darkness. Every military doctrine assumes technological superiority in night operations. These capabilities trace directly to Richardson's 3 shots, to his willingness to trust experimental technology, to his courage sitting alone in a frozen crater, waiting for enemies he'd see before they saw him. The experts mocked the T-3 infrared scope, called it a waste of resources, a toy, experimental equipment that would never work in real combat. Richardson proved them wrong, not through argument, not through testing, through 3 shots that stopped 47 advancing troops. His story reminds us that innovation requires believers, people willing to trust new technology when others dismiss it, soldiers willing to carry experimental equipment into combat, individuals willing to risk their lives proving a concept. Richardson's grave is in Greenmount Cemetery, Montpelier, Vermont. A simple military headstone. Eugene Richardson, Sergeant, U.S. Army, 1923–1998, Silver Star recipient. Nothing on the headstone mentions night vision, infrared technology, the 47 German troops he stopped, the warfare revolution he pioneered. Just standard military markers. To Sergeant Eugene Richardson, to the night hunter who stopped 47 troops with 3 shots, to the soldier who trusted experimental equipment when experts mocked it, to the pioneer who proved technology could change warfare. Your 3 shots in darkness echoed through 75 years of military history. Every soldier who operates at night stands on your shoulders. Every special operator who owns the darkness continues your legacy. Every tactical advantage gained through night vision validates your courage. You sat alone in a frozen crater, in absolute darkness, against an enemy that owned the night, and you took it away from them. 3 shots, 8 seconds, forever. The night no longer belongs to whoever adapts to darkness. It belongs to whoever can see through it. You proved that. February 13, 1945. We remember.